ESPN recently just dropped their top 100 prospects for the 2025 NBA draft, essentially their updated big board. And today, for this episode of the Just Ballin' podcast, I wanted to go through this and just talk about it with you guys, see who I'm higher on than they have, see who I'm lower on than they have, and just kind of feel things out for this. So before we get back into today's episode of the Just Ballin' podcast, I want to give a word from the best ticketing app out there, SeatGeek. If you're looking to attend a concert, a festival, SeatGeek is the place to go, but you know I'm using SeatGeek to attend the NBA playoffs here in 2025 with my Knicks in the playoffs. I'm going to be using that to attend a game at MSG. And SeatGeek has over 28 million downloads, and they are the #1 rated ticketing app out there. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek. Either it's a concert, sporting event, festival, you name it. So maybe you aren't going to go to an NBA event near you, but the MLB season is in full swing. The NHL playoffs are also here as well. Or maybe you want to get started on the NFL season down the line. And what I love about SeatGeek, they use the 1 to 10 scale. So if you scroll through an event, maybe a sporting event, an NBA game, you could see a green seat. That is SeatGeek telling you that you are getting a good deal on that seat relative to the market. But if you see a red dot and a scale with the number closer to 1, that means you are getting a bad deal, and that is a seat to avoid, and that's something nobody else does, and that's why I love SeatGeek. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee as well, and you can use my code BALLIN, BALLIN, for $20 off at SeatGeek with your first purchase. So you can click the link in the episode description, use my code BALLIN, BALLIN, to get $20 off your tickets at SeatGeek. And thank you again to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. And yeah, thank you to anybody that helps the podcast grow, or just helps the podcast out in general by using SeatGeek, that code BALLIN. So this was written by their main draft guy, Jonathan Gavoni. He's been there for a while. And yeah, there was recently the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament, which is a lot of guys that I think more so are done with college, or they have a chance to go back to college, but they're more so just not guys that are really consensus top 60 players, but they're notable college names for sure. And they all get together and scouts are there. And it's something that I kind of never really knew about until last year. And it's definitely a cool part of the process because the withdrawal deadline is May 28th. We have the lottery in about 2 weeks, and then the combine is right after the lottery. So we're going to be fully ramped up into draft season very soon. I feel like draft season has already begun. And then once the lottery is done, that month and a half is just straight draft content. I'm excited to bring you guys a lot of draft content. I never know if you guys are being sarcastic when you say, oh, another draft video. I don't know if I do it too much. Either way, I just kind of just post what I like here on the pod. So if it's draft content, it's draft content, and that's what I enjoy. So to no surprise, the #1 overall prospect in this draft is Kasperi Shakuchonis. No, I'm just kidding if you're listening on audio. It is Cooper Flagg from Duke. We saw, I don't know about a generational tank off. I don't know if Victor Wembanyama's because the lottery allows you, obviously you want the #1 overall pick or the worst record, because the worst you could fold it was 5, but I don't know. You never know who's going to get the #1 pick, because it could be any of the teams in the top 5. We've seen Atlanta, New Orleans, Memphis all jump up in the past and get very lucky. Even Houston last year, right? They were it was in the teens, and I think they moved up to number 3. Only Washington was a bottom 5 team that actually ended up picking in the top 3. And yeah, Cooper Flagg, the #1 overall pick. He recently declared for the draft. A lot of people thought, or not a lot of people, but some people were throwing out the rumor that Cooper Flagg could stay at Duke for another year. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. There's just too much money to pass up in the NBA. Every kid's dream is to play. Most kids' dream is to play in the NBA, not to play at Duke. Obviously, Duke is an incredible experience, and it's along for the ride. But if you have a chance to be the #1 overall pick with an incoming class that has 3 other guys you'd be competing with to try to be a #1 overall pick as a sophomore, I couldn't tell you the last time that's been done. It's been a minute, and Cooper Flagg is like the career 1-1 in this draft. A franchise-changing prospect. He's not going to immediately make an impact like Wemby on that level, because Wemby is in a different tier. But what he could do to elevate your floor in your first year, and it really depends what team he goes to. If he goes to New Orleans, Toronto, Philadelphia, they're going to see that playoff bump next year. They're going to go to the playoffs or be in the playing tournament because of what Cooper Flagg could be around the already talent, the talent you have. If it goes to Washington or Charlotte or Utah, probably not a playing tournament team next year. But then you hope to get a good pick in 26. I said on 2027 as you really put it all together. Dylan Harper, #2 in this class, my #2 prospect as well. So yeah, he's the best guard prospect in this class. Reminds me a lot of Cade Cunningham. And I'm glad that they mentioned the comparison to Cade Cunningham, because I feel like all the comps I see have been Jalen Brunson and I forget the other guard, but I see Cade Cunningham, maybe not Cade Cunningham today, because that may be Harper in 4 years from now, but I think he reminds me a ton of Cade Cunningham coming out of Montverde and Cade Cunningham coming out of Oklahoma State. And I think Harper is the best guard prospect in this draft. He's no Cooper Flag, but would I be shocked if Dylan Harper scored more points in his career than Cooper Flag? No, I wouldn't. Is he going to be as good a defender? No. He might not be as good of a shooter. Maybe not even as a passer, and they play different positions. But Harper could flat out score the basketball. He can get to the rim. Funny enough, I'm just imagining him on like Orlando. That would have been a great fit, but obviously they have no chance of getting him in this draft. So yeah, Dylan Harper, number 2, no shocker there. No shocker at number 3, we do have Ace Bailey, his teammate at Rutgers that also recently just declared for the draft. Going to be a polarizing prospect. His ceiling is probably 2. His floor is maybe 4. It's not a guarantee he's going 3. I think a team could fall in love with him at number 2 if they already have their guard in place or guards in place. Like Philadelphia, if they get number 2, they may think about Ace Bailey over Dylan Harper because of their excess of guards at the moment, and good guards that they want to build around. But I'm still very high on Ace Bailey. A lot of people are low on him, but he does need to go to the right situation. I'm a little skeptical about him in my long-term outlook if he goes to Charlotte. If he goes to, I don't like Charlotte. Washington is like a TBD fit. I don't think I'm going to love that fit. I think I'd prefer to see him go to Utah or Brooklyn, to be honest with you. So yeah, we have Ace Bailey at number 3. Number 4, VJ Edgecombe. No shocker there in the top 4. That is my top 4 prospects at this moment. Edgecombe, very safe prospect, not as high of a ceiling, especially offensively as the 3 aforementioned guys. But somebody that is an incredible point of attack defender, a complete competitor, gamer, high motor, wants to win. One of the best athletes in this class. He's not like Thompson twin level athlete, but I'm trying to think of like the best athletes in the 2024 draft class. Like Ron Holland was probably the best athlete in my opinion. I think Edgecombe is right around there. But yeah, number 4, no shocker. We got a lot of prospects to go through for sure. Number 5, this is the first different, I think, than the group thing or consensus right now is Jeremiah Fears. Right now, I have Fears in that next bucket of guards. So it's like Dylan Harper, clear guard 1 in this class. And then it's Kasparas Shakuchonis, Jeremiah Fears, Jace Richardson as my next trio. I have them all ahead of the Demon, Seraph, Traore tier of guards. And Fears is somebody that can score the basketball very well. I wonder how he's going to be as a pure offensive weapon at the NBA level. Is he going to be someone that's going to be consistently efficient? Or is it just going to be a negative asset outside the arc? Or inside the 2-point line, or inside the 3-point line, because sometimes you're gonna have some inefficient games. Now he can score at the rim. I think he's very reliant on his right hand, and I think he operates well out of the pick and roll. And apparently he was at the Portsmouth Invitational, which is interesting. Or no, maybe that never mind. He was talking to scouts and executives at the Portsmouth Invitational. But yeah, so guys. Worked out in New York City, like Cam Jones, Boogie Flan, Hunter Salas, and Carter Knox. All those guys are going to probably be, Flan and Jones would be drafted. Salas might not be drafted. Knox, I thought was going to go back for another year. But I do think Fears has top 10 potential. Number 5, I would say I would be shocked. I'm still leaning maybe Kaman as my 5th best prospect. I like Trey Johnson over Jeremiah Fears. I just don't think Fears is going to be that good of an initiator, more so than Johnson, to warrant the pick over him, because Johnson is a way better shooter, and I think a way more balanced scorer as well. Maybe not as good of a ball handler. So speaking of Trey Johnson, he's here number 6. He's one of the best shooters in this class. He shot 39.7% from 3 last year and 87% from the free throw line. Like Fears, he was the number 1 option on his team in the SEC, and Johnson is going to be a top 10 pick in this draft for sure. And then he does have Kasparas Shakuchonis there at 7. So I like Kasparas, and I know a lot of people started to dislike his game towards the end of the collegiate season. I've still been, I'm believing in the shot. I'm believing in the ball handle. I'm believing in the decision-making. He's also going to, I think, benefit from a fit. If he somehow ends up in Utah, I would like that a lot. If he ended up in Brooklyn, I think that would be big for him as well. Even New Orleans, I wouldn't hate that idea either. But I do think Kasparas will be a top 10 pick. And I'm going back and forth between, I think Johnson could be in that tier. And, Kaman Maluach and Fears and Jace Richardson. Who is the 5th best prospect in this draft? Because for me, it's right now, it's number 1 Flag, number 2 Harper, number 3 Edgecombe, number 4 Bailey. I just think Edgecombe's a little bit more safe. And it depends really on situation. That big board would change. And then 5 through 8, it's very interchangeable right now. At number 8, he does have Kaman Maluach, the center from Duke, the best rim protector in this class, 7'2", didn't play basketball 5 years ago. He's got an insane wingspan. He can roll to the rim. He can catch alley-oops. He's a good cutter. He's aggressive inside. He moves well for somebody at 7'2". He doesn't look kind of wonky out there. Not like a klutz either. I think he's got solid footwork. And if he continues to fill out, get stronger inside, more physical, oh man, like he could be a top 5 player in this class, and he could be a top 10 defender in the NBA one day. You also got to worry about like, yeah, like the body, the shape, and how is he going to be health wise, right? Because somebody of that size, somebody that doesn't have a ton of basketball experience, how are his knees going to be? How is he going to look over time? There's definitely some risks that drafting come on while you watch, but in the right spot, I think it'd be great for him. I think New Orleans would be nice. I think Toronto would be nice for him. I don't know about him and Sarr in the front court. I've thought about it. It intrigues me for sure. I don't know if they would want to take a backup in the top 10 with the Suns pick, but in Houston, a backup to Şengün, like he could be the third string center and learn and get minutes throughout the regular season, give Şengün a little bit of a time off, and you bring back Steven Adams, and I'm a fan of that. And then you can try to move on from Jock Landale. Number 9, we have Knippel, another player kind of like Edgecombe in a different way that has a high floor but a low ceiling. Knippel's never, I'm not going to say never, but it's probably not going to be an all-star one day, but it is the best shooter in this class, in my opinion. So many good fits. I know it's kind of lazy to say he'd be a perfect Spur, but he would be a perfect Spur. I think he'd be good in Philadelphia. I think he'd be good where he can get these open looks on the perimeter because he's got teammates that can draw so much of the defense's attention. Even in like Toronto, it's not the worst fit in the world. It's not the best fit, but I don't think it's a bad consolation prize if you end up with like the 7th overall pick in this draft and Trey Johnson is off the board and you want somebody that could shoot him. I think Gasparis and Fears have their question marks as well. So he's got Derek Queen at number 10. Like I would have Jace Richardson in this top 10. I don't think Derek Queen is a top 10 prospect in this draft. He's got a good handle. He's got like a good feel for the game, I would say. And like he seems like a great kid for sure. I just worry about like his style of play at the NBA level. Like, will he be agile enough? Will he be physical enough defensively? Can he be more than just a post-up guy on the offensive end of the floor? Because Queen could be a fine rotational big for 10 plus years in this league. He could be like a JaVale McGee type. He could be somebody like a Steven Adams type. Not like the exact player, but someone that could just stick around for a while and that could just be a good center in the starting lineup or coming off the bench or Jonas Valanciunas or something like that. Or can he be somebody that can actually be a difference maker for you long term? I don't think he can be. And that's a take I'm willing to die on. Not like to die on, but I think I'm going to be pretty firm. I feel like I would have fell in love with Queen this year because he was an insanely productive college player. He was so much fun to watch this year for Maryland in the Crab 5 and the game winner against Colorado State. I just don't see a top 10 player in the NBA from this draft. Like Colin Murray-Boyles, I don't also see as like an elite player in the NBA. But I think I'd prefer Colin Murray-Boyles, who he has at number 11, because I know I'm getting just an absolute elite defensive player that can guard multiple positions, that I think can have a better shot than Derek Queen, and is 2 inches shorter than Queen? Like, that is a noticeable difference, and then maybe more once we get finalized heights from the combine. But I think Murray-Boyles is a better player in this class than Queen. And he is Yegor Demin at 12. I think this is a little high for Yegor. I don't, like, he had a 51% true shooting this year at BYU. That was terrible. And I know he was coming over from Real Madrid and obviously from Russia. I just don't know if he's going to be somebody that you can rely on with the ball in his hands, that can create his own shot, that can finish at the rim at the NBA level. There's good fits, there's bad fits. I wouldn't mind him in Utah with that Minnesota pick they're going to have. I don't know if I would like him in Minnesota, specifically. I'm trying to think like teams at the end of the lottery, like Atlanta, no. OKC's gonna have like the 15th overall pick. Just do Topic 2.0. Dallas, I don't hate it, but for them, I prefer a guard that can shoot, and that's Jace Richardson at 13, who I like more than Demin. I think he's a top 10 player in this class. Jace Richardson, I think he's like I think I like Jace more than Fears. The thing about Jace is wow, okay, so Gavoni says that not everybody views him as a strong lottery candidate, but his heady, efficient backcourt play has earned him looks early in the draft. I don't know, maybe it's 6'3", and he's not the best initiator in the world, and you're worried about him being in like that tweener position. I saw that with like maybe Colin Sexton or Kobe White in the 18 and 19 drafts, but I think Jace Richardson is going to be, I don't know about an elite shooter, but one of the best shooters at the guard position in this class. He's a fantastic ball handler. He can get to the rim. He comes from a great NBA talent in Jason Richardson that has helped him practice and learn and just kind of be around growing up, and that could be huge for his game. And yeah, like he was somebody earlier in the year that you didn't really know was going to be a first-round pick. Really picked it up towards conference play. I think he's got a great feel for his game, for the game, and I think out of a lot of these guys here, if you're looking for somebody that can score the basketball at an efficient rate, he's got a better chance of being like a high teens scorer on a 58, 59% true shooting one day than Demin, Murray-Boyles, Queen maybe not because he's big, maybe even Knipple. Like, he could score more than a lot of these guys in this class outside of the top three of Bailey, Harper, and Flagg. So at number 14, we have Noah Essengay from Russia Farm, Germany. He's been picking it up in their, I think, postseason as of late. And he's actually been a better shooter as well. And if he could be a three-point shooter, he may go in the top 10. We may see like Bilal Koulibaly, Tijan Salon, French prospect rise leading up to the draft because he's 6'9", 6'10", because he's got a long wingspan. And if he can space the floor, teams are going to fall in love with that. He's, I think, better than Tijan Salon was coming out of Cholet last year. And Salon went, what, 6 to the Hornets? Essengay's going to go high, I think. Liam McNeely, 15. Yeah, at one point he could have been maybe 6th on people's big boards. He had a rough end to the season. I think there's good fits for him outside the lottery, though. I think I'd rather see him go to a non-lottery team than a lottery team, if we're being honest. I mean, like, Houston would be fun. OKC, sign me up for that. Trying to think, like, Indiana. Like, they're a team that could end up trading some of their shooting depth at one point. That could be a nice add. Orlando, sign me up for that as well. I would like Liam McNeely to a bunch of different destinations. Even Brooklyn, I think, is fine. Will Riley, 16. I like Will Riley a lot. And I think Will Riley is one of the more intriguing prospects in this draft because of his handle, because of his size. At 6'8", can he be strong enough defender? And this is where I would have had Isaiah Evans in this tier, but he's actually going back to Duke, which kind of upsetted me. I wish he was going into the NBA this year. I thought he could have been a first-round pick. So at 17, another French prospect, Johan Berenger. Gavoni and ESPN have been very high on Berenger all year long. I don't see top 20 player. I mean, for what you want, like, he's a better rim protector and will be a better defender at the NBA level than, I think, Kalkbrenner and Danny Wolf, and maybe even, like, Zakarsky and some of the other bigs that are going to go around this range. I still like Thomas Sorber more than Berenger, but I like watching him a little bit more. I can get into Berenger in the first round. Not in the top 20, though, unless a team, like, desperately needs a center. Like, maybe that's going to be Indiana. But for where they are, I don't know if Berenger can help you in the playoffs for the next 2 to 3 years. Somebody outside of, like, somebody like Sorber can. 18, Traore. Yeah, I mean, he was a top 5 prospect going into the year. And yeah, their team hasn't been playing good out of the last 5, losing 5 out of their last 6 games. And the 18-year-old has been up and down all year long. It's pretty much been the story, like, playing good competition, older competition, stronger, more physical competition over there in France. And he's got the size and the ball handle and the court vision, which excites you. But I don't know if he's going to be the good offensive talent that we thought he could be after what he did in the Adidas circuit last summer. 19, Danny Wolf. So he is Danny Wolf ahead of Thomas Sorber. Okay. And yeah, he's just like a unique prospect. I love him in OKC. I think that would be a phenomenal fit for Danny Wolf. Even Minnesota as well, for somebody that can keep the ball moving, get to his spots, and should get good looks. It could be helped by other good defenders in Minnesota. I can view Wolf as a top 20 prospect. Carter Bryant at 20, another interesting guy, just because Carter Bryant is 6'8". Didn't get a lot of shots up last year at Arizona, but you think he can be a good handler, ball handler, defender, and shooter. That's where the NBA is heading. That's where you want this modern day size and guys that can guard multiple positions. Asa Newell, 21. I have him higher than this. I think Asa is definitely a top 20 prospect in this class. I would have him ahead of Joan Berenger. I would have him ahead of Carter Bryant. I would have him ahead of Danny Wolf. I would probably have him ahead of Traore, McNeely, and Will Riley. Essengay, okay, I see that. I think I would have him ahead of Yegor Demon as well. I think this is too low for Asa Newell. I think there's some really good spots for him in this draft. Houston, I wouldn't hate that. Portland, around that 9-10 range, I wouldn't hate that either. Trying to think, like, Chicago. Like, also, don't hate Chicago either. If Queen and Maluach are off the board, or I can maybe even be talked into Newell over Queen, I know. And it's funny, they both played on the same high school team at Montverde in 2024. Hugo Gonzalez at 22. I'm also not high on Hugo Gonzalez. I don't have a first round grade on him, and I can't get into it. Just the lack of offensive talent, the lack of offensive explosiveness. He just doesn't, like, wow me. And maybe he could be a fine defender at the NBA level. That's why he has him at 22. I just don't see that right now in his game. I don't. I'm willing to take a chance on him in the second round. Maybe at the end of the first, but it really just depends on what fit. If I see his name called to, like, Phoenix, Boston, the Clippers, I'm going to hate that 100%. Ben Seraph, 23. Okay, a little bit lower on Ben Seraph. Interesting. I'm starting to like Ben Seraph a little bit more than Yegor Demon and possibly Nolan Traore, because I think he's got really good instincts. He's, like, super competitive. He can operate very well out of the pick and roll like Nolan and Yegor can. And I think he's a little bit, like, twitchier than those guys as well. Definitely more than Nolan, maybe not as much as Yegor. I think he should be going higher than this, than 23, at least on a big board. Sorber at 24, I don't know if he's going to dock him for the foot injury, which is scary for somebody that's 6'10". But We'll see. Yeah, the deadline is on May 28th. We'll see if he's going to officially declare. I believe he will be declaring, but I think he could be the second best rim protector in this draft after Kamani. I've been saying that all year long. 25, we got Nick Clifford from Colorado State. And another fun, like, hybrid scoring wing prospect that wasn't really a great shooter to start off this year at Colorado State and really caught fire midway through the year towards the end of the year. Had a nice March Madness tournament. I don't know. I think this was like his last year of eligibility, but he's a little bit of an older prospect that could step in right away. So yeah, those teams that have playoff aspirations in 2026, that's where I want to see Nick Clifford go. I wouldn't mind him in like Atlanta with that second first rounder from the Lakers. So here's the remaining of the big board, 26, I guess, through 100. So we do Thero, 26, really good defender, borderline first round pick for me, so fine with him there. Yaxel Lendenberg at 27 would be around the same range for me. I think he's testing the waters and then could potentially go to Michigan in the transfer portal, which is a huge get. Walter Clayton at 28. I like Clayton. I think fit matters a lot too. I like him more as like a second pick in this draft for a team than their first pick. But if like Boston, I think has like 29 and 31, I wouldn't hate that. But I don't know if Boston is really a team that wants another shooting pure one like that. Maybe they do, honestly, with Drew Holiday getting older. And Clayton can kind of fit that Missoula ball style offense. Alex Condon, another Florida player at 29. I'm not a big fan of Condon. I think he relies a lot on the system, and I don't think he can really make something out of nothing and find his way out there. He kind of needs to be shown the ropes. But I think there is a little bit of athleticism in his way. Rasheer Fleming at 30, I think he's better than that. Insane athlete. I know he's a little bit older than Carter Bryant, but if you like Carter Bryant that much, why don't you like Rasheer Fleming? I mean, Rasheer Fleming can do kind of all the things that Du Thiero can do, but he's also a way better shooter, and he's younger. Dame Sarr at 31, kind of being a hyped up prospect as of late. I believe he's Italian, playing for Barcelona, and I caught like wind of Dame Sarr last year, and I didn't really know much of like follow him this year because I didn't think he was going to be in this 25 class. But if he is, like, definitely an intriguing prospect. Like, I'd like him more than any of the guys that were around this range last year, like Pacome Dadiet, or like Juan Nunez, or any of those guys. Or Melvin Ajinka, but he went later in the second. Drake Powell, who is declaring for the NBA draft. Ian Jackson left UNC to go to St. John's, kind of a shocker. Drake Powell's going to the draft. Didn't have a lot of shots this year, like not a large sample size. He's 6'6", but he's a really good defender. Same with the guy at 33, and that's Noah Penda. Some of the best perimeter defenders in this draft, in Powell and Penda. I think I like Penda a little more because I think there's more offensive upside in him. We have a couple centers here, Ryan Kalkbrenner, Maxime Reynaud. I like Kalkbrenner's defense and Reynau's offense in a way. I think this is fine range. Sergio Delaria at 36, like that range as well. Alex Karaban at 37, I also think should be a top 30 pick in this draft, so I'm a little bit higher on him, especially with this class not being a good shooting class. Like a Du Thiero, not a consistent shooter. Yaxel Lendenberg, I don't know how consistent he'll be. Like Sorber can't shoot. Seraph can't shoot right now, at least. Hugo can't shoot. Asa can't shoot. Carter Bryant can maybe shoot, but we didn't see a large sample size. Danny Wolf can kind of shoot for his position. Traore can't shoot. Behringer can't shoot. Riley was up and down this year. McNeely was up and down this year. Like, there's so many question marks with guys shot this year. I'm taking Karaban in the first round if I need shooting, and every team needs shooting. At 38, we have Janai Brome. Yeah, that's around the range I would have him. Todd Pettiford, a little bit on the smaller side, but if he's going to be in the draft, I like him. Around this range as well. And Broom was somebody I always thought was going to be a top 30 guy, but I'm kind of off that. Markovic from Mega Basket here at 40, probably around that range as well with a high upside pick. Alex Tui at 41, not the biggest Alex Tui fan. Chaz Lanier at 42, and Miles Uzan from Houston at 43. He has Isaiah Evans at 44 and Cam Jones at 45. Now, Isaiah Evans, I believe, is going back to Duke. I would have had him in the top 20. Cam Jones, I also have a top 30 grade on, so I think 45 is way too low. Darian Williams at 46. LeBaron Philon at 47. Now, if LeBaron Philon is in this draft, he is way better than a lot of these guys ahead of him. Like, how do you have Tui and Lanier and Sergio Delaria over Philon? I don't get that. John Chanje from Wisconsin was a great scorer this year. He's going to be like 24 years old when the season starts. Ruzic from Spain, the lottery ticket at 49. Eric Dixon at 50. Miles Bird at 51. I'm not the biggest fan of Miles Bird. Tyrese Proctor at 52. I know he didn't have the greatest end to March Madness, but I don't think that should overshadow his really good season this year for the Blue Devils. I'd have him higher. Cedric Coward, I forget if he is transferring, but if he goes in the draft, I have a borderline top 30 grade on him. In my most recent big board I uploaded on the Sross channel, he was an honorable mention for the top 30. Zion James at 55. Kobe Bryant, another honorable mention I had, like one of the best shooters in this class, should be higher. Dink Pate at 57. I would take him in the second round. Zakarski Carter Knox, Grunwald from Germany, Mohamed Faye from Italy, to wrap out like the top 60-ish. Thomas Hall at 62 is going back to school. Amari Williams at 63. I think he could be a fringe second rounder. Malik Lewis from Melbourne, Australia at 64. Javon Small from West Virginia at 65. I liked Hunter Salas so much for the 24 draft. They have him here at 66. RJ Lewis, 67, which I believe he's transferring or entering the NBA draft. He'll be transferring, which is kind of a shame because he was so much fun to watch at St. John's last year. Ben Henschel from Perth at 68. PJ Haggerty at 69, who I believe is also transferring from Memphis, which is kind of sad. I wish he continued to play there. Jameer Watkins at 70. Micah Peavy at 71. That is a player I would be all over an undrafted pick, free agent signing, like two-way on. Grant Nelson at 72. Not the biggest fan of at the NBA level, but Hansen Yang at 73. I like Hansen Yang potentially more than Joanne Behringer, who they have a lot higher than this. Kobe Sanders from Nevada at 74. Victor Lakin from Clemson at 75. Caleb Love at 76. Yeah, not staying away from that. Otega Owe at 77. I like him more than Caleb Love. Caleb Grove from Missouri at 78. Jalen Moore from Oklahoma at 79. Ethan Almanza from Perth at 80. You remember him maybe from last year in the G League Ignite. Could have been a first-round pick. Jackson Robinson at 81 from Kentucky. Got banged up this year for the Wildcats. Ulbricht from Australia at 82. Played for the team that A.J. Johnson played on last year. Vlad Golden at 83. Don't really see an NBA player there. Mark Sears at 84, same thing. Nate Biddle at Oregon, 85. Clifford Omoyori at Alabama at 86. Also, I mean, like, he's ranked 86. Of course, I'm not really going to see these guys as NBA talents. I'm just going to let you know who I like the most here. Peyton Sanford, I mean, fine shooter at Iowa. Could have been like a second rounder last year. Ryan Nembhard at Gonzaga. I like him, honestly. Younger brother of Andrew Nembhard. John Polakidis from Yale at 89. Don't know much about him. Max Shulga at 90. He was one of my sleepers that I made a video or episode about on this on the Just Ballin' podcast. Pre-March Madness, I would be intrigued about. I forget if he's declaring officially because now there's so much like declaring or I'm declaring, but I'm also like, or I'm putting my name in the draft, but I'm transferring. I like Shulga as a second rounder. Curtis Jones, Iowa State. Elijah Martin at 92. Also like it's a second rounder. Penn State center, Yannick. Don't know much about him. Igor Milicic from Tennessee at 94. Will Richard at 95. Hey, May kept Florida's season alive in that March Madness game when nobody could score in the first half. Kobe Johnson, 96. Andrew Carr, 97. Chucky Hepburn, 98. I love me some Chucky Hepburn. I forget if like he has eligibility, but I would take Chucky Hepburn in the second round for sure. Bryce Williams, 99, and Miles Kelly at 100. So that is ESPN's top 100 big board. I don't know if I'll ever get to a top 100 big board. I'm just not going to know, I think, enough about 100 prospects with all the other things that I do to build that up for the NBA draft. But if you guys want to see maybe a top 60 big board, you can let me know. I've done top 30 big boards over the last 2 years. If you guys did enjoy this episode of the Just Ballin' podcast, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up on YouTube or hit that follow button on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or leave a rating and review. It could help the podcast grow, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.